I'm Igor and this is the List Building Lifestyle, a podcast for those who want to build a large profitable email list and make six figures from anywhere in the world. If you would like to get rich by building a large email list while helping people, this podcast is for you. I also invite you to attend a free web class I'm conducting this week to find out how I built a list of 4,331,656 email subscribers at a profit. Secure your free seat at igor.cx. Attend this free workshop to discover an easy way to get 50 to 500 new email leads per day on complete autopilot without losing tons of money. Just go to igor.cx to attend this free web class. And now, once again, it's time to claim your list building lifestyle. Welcome back to another edition of the List Building Lifestyle with your host, Igor K-Fets. Want to watch Formula One in Monaco with royalty? Or maybe you'd like to tee off with a champion. How about sitting live on stage with your favorite rock band? Or maybe making a brief appearance in your favorite TV show? Those sound like far-fetched dreams to most people, but they're not. In fact, if you ever had a dream of becoming an MI6 spy for the weekend, that too can be done. My guest today is the one person in the world, at least the one that I know of, who can and does make all these things happen for people on a daily basis. He's the master at making seemingly impossible happen. He's the person you call when you're ready to start taking off boxes off your bucket list. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Bluefisher himself, Steve Sims. Earlier this year, I read Steve's book, Bluefishing, and it hit a chord for me. As someone who achieved more before 30 than most people in their entire lives, I realized while my life changed in the recent years, I myself never changed. I still saw locked doors everywhere. And when I read Steve's book, I saw a man who knows how to pick the locks. There's no door he won't knock on, regardless of the outcome. So that basically the one quality that attracted me to Steve. It eventually led to developing a deeper relationship and now to this interview. So Steve, thank you so much for being here.
That's a hell of an intro. Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and it's a pleasure to host you as well. Now, the first thing I want to cover immediately, because I'm sure a lot of people are now confused. You know, they're like, what the hell does bluefishing mean?
It means nothing, but it's been given a meaning. It's a very funny thing, but the company used to have a password to get into certain events. And one of the passwords was, finish this sentence, one fish, two fish, red fish. So people would come to the door of the party and go, bluefish, and they would get in to a spectacular event. Now, as the company grew and people started referring to it more as that bluefish company, then this verb and adjective and all these things came up where, hey, we're going to bluefish this. Hey, we're bluefishing at the moment. If you're sitting on the top of a penthouse drinking champagne over Monaco, this whole word that meant nothing suddenly had a meaning of doing what people thought was impossible, was top shelf, was a 12 out of 10. So when you take it as far as you can and then go further, that's when you bluefished it, or that's when you bluefish in life.
Nice. Talk about a culture, right? You know when you got a culture going when you invent your own language.
Oh, we had clients sending us pictures saying, my kid had a birthday party yesterday. We bluefished the hell out of it. And it was just really, really warming to know that it actually built up a direction, an attitude within life of not accepting the norm.
Nice. All right, cool. Well, I'm really excited to really, grill you for some answers here that I've got, for the questions that are prepared, because there's very few people that I've met in my life that have this attitude towards life, that always go for the gusto. A lot of people write about it. A lot of authors, they always talk about, live life with passion. Passion never fails. Go with gusto. But very few of them live it. And I too am guilty of that, by the way. I admit I am guilty of, of preaching one thing, but then not really truly living up to it. So it's been truly fascinating to observe you in the way you work and read about all the crazy stories and all the crazy experiences you've created for your clients. So my first question is this. In your book, you write, failure is just more discovery. Now, as you know, I operate primarily in the internet marketing space, right? People who are trying to build an online business. And I noticed that people tend to never get to a point of failure. they often stay stuck because they're afraid to fail. In other words, they don't even take action because the idea of failure in and of itself is so violent to them. So what would you tell those people?
It's a shame nowadays that failure, no one's frightened of failing, okay? They're frightened of people seeing them fail, whether it be someone in the office, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a husband, a wife. They don't want to appear to be less than what they perceive. So we're in a world where everyone is insta-perfect. Everyone's life is insta-great. The idea of you failing makes you lesser. Now, I noticed in all of the people I deal with, and I deal with the richest, most powerful people in the world, every single one of these people are serial failures. And so if you're not failing, I guarantee you, I failed last week. I know for hell I'm going to be failing this week. Just fail often, and fail up. But don't be frightened of it, because you're not going to learn if you're not riding that close to the edge. Now, I'm not saying walk into to Vegas and bet your house on black, okay? That's not risking failure. That's stupidity. Mm-hmm. It's a case of when you look at something, okay, I've got 5 options of marketing strategies for my next course. Which one shall I try? Try all 6. And try them to find out what works, and then try something just different. When you find 4 don't work, it could be because of your tone of voice. It could have been your style, because it doesn't resonate with the people you're dealing with. You've learned 4 reasons not to repeat that. That education can't be read in a book, can't be taught on an online course. You've got to try and try often, and be proud to fail. I actually remember speaking, thankfully, to Elon Musk. And I said to him about something about his SpaceX. And he said, you know, the thing that really helped me was I didn't care if people saw me fail, because if I wasn't failing, I wasn't advancing. And that was his mentality. And I thought, that's it. You got to do it. Fail often, and fail up.
Wow. I mean, this is truly profound, because I've heard the idea of fail up. One of my favorite authors and mentors, John Carlton, he's almost bragging about how much he failed in life and how he wanted to fail and how he really tried to fail as much as he could. But the idea of being okay with other people seeing you fail, with other people seeing you as a failure potentially, that's a new one for me, and it's definitely an eye-opener for sure, as well as for many of our listeners. Now, in chapter 10, you talk about personal branding, where you insist it's supposed to be, personal, which is logical, right? Now, this is very interesting, because most people, when they hear the word brand, they think companies, they think logos, but you never done it that way, did you?
No. You think about the top brands now, and I'm emphasizing that word, and I'm air quoting it and bolding it and underlining it. You think about all the brands now, from Tesla, Apple, Microsoft, all of those major companies. The reason they became so trendy and visual was because there was a person behind it who stood up and said, hey, this is what I stand for. You bought Apple because you thought Steve Jobs in his black t-shirt and glasses was cool, dynamic, and was doing something different. So as we're becoming very vanilla in our world, and everything's becoming Amazoned, if it can be transacted, then you're going out of business. So what you've got to create is a brand, something you stand for, so that people can resonate and relate to it and get involved. And you mentioned it at the beginning, what you want more than anything in the world, more than clients, is a community. And that's the focus now, building up a community of like-minded individuals who all stand for what you stand for, whether it be equestrian sports, whether it be for playing chess, drinking whiskey, living the fast life, building a community of like-minded individuals, and you standing for that, you being the brand for that.
Yeah, and I see it more and more now, with the smart entrepreneurs doing it. For example, this is something that you probably already know as a concept, and I'm sure you like it. So in the town over, just the next town over here, I discovered something that's called a car club. So basically, it's a club of guys. I never see any women there besides the ones who are like lifting the wheel off of the cars, right? Basically, it's a club for guys who love exotic cars, drinking whiskey, and smoking cigars. And I was invited to one of their, meetings, basically, where, they were unveiling the new Maserati they got, like the black edition something something. And I'm not a big fan of Maseratis. So anyway, like it was a proper culture. They were really priding themselves on being a part of this culture of guys who like cars and love drinking and love smoking cigars. And that was all that it was about. Now, the membership fee is anywhere between 4 to I think 12,000 Canadian per month. And you'd be like, who's in their right mind will pay for that? But there were a lot of people there, like a lot.
Yeah, I'm always a great believer that businesses fail because of quite openly two things. There is a third one, but that's another conversation. You either got the wrong product or the wrong client. If you've got the right product and the right client, if it's $100,000 a month and you've still got the right product and the right client, you're still in business.
Yep. Dan Kennedy talks about message market media. So he has like 3 reasons, but it's pretty much the same thing. You get the right solution or the right promise to the right people, and you're in business. All right, cool. So in chapter 19, you talk about your starter position in an insurance company where you had to be, and this is, I quote, okay, an annoying little shit calling people on the list. Now,
that was me. Yep.
Yeah. So, what did you learn cold calling? Like, seriously, how do you feel it shaped, your attitude later in life?
So there were two massive lessons it taught me. One of them was to respond quickly. If you ever want a lesson in psychology, go to a bar and look at the bar staff. You see, the bar staff will run up and down that bar counter. And if they see a bunch of girls having a good night out, they will respond, interact, and speak to these people in one tone of voice. And then shoulder to shoulder of them will be a couple of guys in their 50s in business suits. And their demeanor, her demeanor to them will change immediately to resonate and relate to them. And if there's a girl and a guy next to them, it'll change again. They get to respond really quickly to different people and different personalities, because we all talk a different language. And when I was on the phone, I only had the sound of emotion, which 9 times out of 10 was, I'm bloody eating my dinner, what do you want? That kind of thing. But you learn how to react to it. You learn little quips, and you could turn around and they would say, oh, why are you calling me? Why are you disturbing my dinner? And of course, you've got the name and phone number, and you could turn around and you go, well, Mr. Peterson or Roger, you actually asked me to call you 6 weeks ago. You told me this number was okay. If it's not, then hey, I apologize. Let me call you in an hour's time once you got past dessert. Is that okay? And you can put them on the spot. No one remembers who they spoke to 6 weeks ago. Now, am I here saying, hey, I learned how to lie? I learned how to manage and change people's reaction and emotion on that phone. And I didn't like the job, but it taught me how to actually chat with the person. And they would go, oh, why do you do this job? Why? Because I'm trying to make a future for my family. Why do you do what you do, sir? And I actually found it a challenge. It was a shit job. It was horrible. I had to make money. I got a flat fee, but I found it very interesting if I could change the person's tone in it. I also learned another lesson, which was very important, was the strategy at the time of every night of making phone calls was we would be given a list of names and phone numbers, and we would be given a call sheet. And on the call sheet, you had to write down the guy's name or the girl's name, the number, what time you phoned them, was an appointment booked, when the appointment was, basically loads of boxes that never ever got filled in. And then at the end of it, the reason for the hang up or the reason the call didn't continue. It was a bloody great spreadsheet. And of course, every time you'd phone up, you'd go, okay, Igor phoned at 7:15. He told me to go screw myself. Was appointment made? No. Why was appointment not made? Because he told me to go screw myself. All these different things. And what would happen was at the end of the night, you maybe got lucky with making one appointment, but you had a paper now that confirmed all of your failings. Okay, and the reason I'm bringing up this story is because it is about the being happy to fail. What I did the following day, when they gave it to me, I flipped the form over. I never recorded any of the failings. I saw them as refinement for my wins. So as I was going through the night and I would end up getting 2 or 3 appointments, the only thing I would record was the appointments. I would never record the failings. What I did notice, 2 things, was 1, I got more successes because I only noticed the successes. So I looked for success in everything I did. If I changed someone's emotion, then the following phone call, I was probably in a much more upbeat mood. They would say something. I'd learned how to change that emotion. I changed it. I got the appointment. So whereas a few days before I was making 2 appointments a night, I'm now making 4 or 5. The other lesson I learned was I got fired because I wasn't adhering to the rules of actually taking a note of these failings. And I said to him, when I take a note, you're literally looking at how many times things don't go your way. You shouldn't look at it that way. You should rejoice in the victories, in the small wars and battles. And they didn't like that. And so it taught me things don't have to be done a certain way. There's ways it can be done. There's other alternatives. You don't have to color within the box. And I always focus on those failings are refining moments of me getting better.
Interesting. Did you have any other than the job as a bouncer in a club, did you have any other starter positions?
Oh, bloody loads. As an entrepreneur, we know we don't fit. And I was that kid that knew I didn't fit. I was so easy to go to work on a Tuesday and go, I don't like this. I'll give it until Friday because I never wanted to be a quitter. That was one thing that I never wanted to be. I'll give it till Friday, see if it resonates or if I can do it. Come Friday, I'll be like, nah, this isn't for me. I'm quitting. So I was one of those kids that my mum thought would never get anywhere because I could, in her words, never hold down a job. And so I did everything from I was a truck driver. I delivered cakes. I was a painter. I was in construction work in my earlier years. That seemed to be the thing that I always bounced back to. I was a doorman. I was a chef. I'd actually convinced someone I could cook, which was hilarious. Literally, they didn't even let me near food. They turned up the first night. They asked me to grab some utensils or something. I didn't know what it was, and I was fired. So, I tried so many different things to see, did any of them kind of like relate to me, while knowing that what I did want to do, I would eventually find.
Interesting. And, it's truly fascinating. Obviously, the way you do what you do is amazing. You get all these things for people. You create these amazing experiences that people don't even dream about, because as you write in your book, a lot of times you have to ask why 3 times to really squeeze out that one thing that makes them really passionate. And that's really interesting because I believe, observing you, the way you work, at least from a distance that I have been doing the last couple of months, is your communication skills are just incredible. And in your blue fishing blueprint,
we're gonna argue there in a second, but carry on.
Okay, sure. So in your blue fishing blueprint, you have number 5 on the list is don't be easy to understand, be impossible to misunderstand. Now, since this is a marketing podcast, and I believe that communication is one of the single most important skills for a marketer, is being able to convince other people to buy into your vision, your ideas, and to pay attention to you in such a clustered, in such a noisy marketplace. Do you mind sharing maybe a couple of tips for people that are just poor communicators? How can they become better at it?
Right, okay. So this is why the point, I'm not a great communicator. And that may sound silly based on what I actually do. It's the rest of the world that's got so bad that makes me look good, okay? Now, I came from East London. I'm 51 years old. If I walked into a pub and a guy punched me in the nose, I knew we had a problem. If I had an argument with someone, I could see how they were reacting, and can react accordingly, or again, I'd get a punch in the nose. It was very primitive manners of communication then. Okay? You know, you helped an old lady over the street, she smiled at you. You opened the door for someone, they thanked you or they smiled. That was the time of that. Now, sadly, we don't have that as much, because you open the door for someone now, 9 times out of 10, the person will walk through it with their head down looking in their iPhone. Their phones have now become protection to avoid eye contact and the horrible potential of starting a conversation. Nice. So the way that I work is to be very, very primitive, to be very, as my wife says, I'm her favorite Neanderthal. I want to make sure that I'm very direct and there's no chance whatsoever for you to be confused. There's a guy up in Austria, I wish I could remember his name, I'm going to have to look him up. He's a doctor, a professor. He wrote an article on the 8 people that read your email. And he said that people read your email based on the emotion that they're having at that moment. And he said there's 8 main people. So if you send someone an email of an absolutely phenomenal offer, this offer that could never be repeated is going to make you a billionaire before tea time. If he's in a bad mood, got home last night, found out his wife was having an affair, no matter how good your offer is, he's going to look at it as a scam.
Unless, I have to mention, unless your offer is, did you just find out your wife is having an affair? Here's 5...
Bingo. So making it current and making it relatable, correct. But it goes through these different things. And it goes through that if he's really happy, he's going to take a chance. And after this complete article of massive words I could never spell, he actually comes down to brevity is king. And he comes down to how to try to make your message crystal clear and pinpoint accurate is to reduce the amount of text in its delivery. So I started that, and there's a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, Mr. Dean Jackson, the guy that invented the 9-word email, would send out an email saying, you're still looking for a house in Southampton.
I used that email myself a couple of years back.
Yeah,
yep.
And I do the exact same thing. So I will actually send out an email to some of the most powerful people in the world. And there's other ways that we do it, and I'll talk about that another time, or in this if you wish. But I'll send out an email saying, do you want more interesting cocktail stories? And just something very, very simple. And then when I am in that communication, I will say, okay, once we've identified what your kind of goal is, whether it be getting married in the Vatican, whether it be driving a Formula One car in Italy, whether it be playing piano with Elton John, I make it very crystal clear. Okay, we're going to do this, but it's going to cost you between $350,000 and $550,000. Is that acceptable? Now, the funny thing is, you're sitting there going, well, that makes sense, you know, it's a high price. Most people won't be that pinpoint and direct with what it costs to get you your dreams. And most people are frightened of that. So they woody around it. Well, you know, it could be around this, and we could do, maybe and the investment in your future, they go, no, it's going to cost you X, Y, Z to get ABC done. Is that what you're looking to do? Now, I found that people, when you're that direct, they like it because there's no hidden fees. There's no hidden message. There's no hidden agenda. So directness, for me, has always been my secret sauce.
Nice. If I think if there's one thing we can take away from this episode, that's the one. That's the one I would definitely take away.
Oh, keep in mind, I will send out, and again, I use text, I do voicemail, I do video, I do all different manners. I do post. I do a lot of post, but it won't just because I'm sending something out, whatever the platform is, it can be really, really short. I know you were interested in Elton John. Would you like to join me with him on the 18th of September in New York City? Let me know. It will be that direct. There won't be any fancy pictures. There won't be a long outline of text. It's the hook. And I focus on the hook all the time.
You know, I was listening to a seminar recording by Gary Bencivenga, who's widely considered one of the best copywriters well, alive. And, he says pretty much the same thing. He talks about how a lot of copywriters, what they do, they try to kind of enhance the copy using, great adjectives. But what's important is the core message and the psychology of the buyer. So if you know that the person on the other end is interested in Elton John or having dinner or having better cocktail stories, you really don't need to put it into a shiny wrapper for it to be sexy for them.
No, and the danger is people try to make themselves, they try to make themselves sound smart. And that's usually the biggest downfall. The people that I know, the rich, the powerful, the successful, are rich, powerful, and successful because they are brilliant at one or two things. They may not be able to spell. They may not be able to, play basketball. They may not be able to launch a rocket. Everyone thinks just because you're rich and powerful, you must be hugely intelligent. That's not the case. You're good at one or two things. And when but you try to use words that are not normally used in your conversation, then you're starting to place those layers of lies on yourself. And you're not being transparent, or the word that everyone loves and I hate, authentic. Be transparent. If you don't use those words normally, don't put it in your copy. Because if you do, you're going to attract people that you can't communicate with.
Yo, it's Igor. If you're loving the content, hop on over to listbuildinglifestyleshow.com for more free training and a free transcript of this episode. Oh, and I'd really appreciate if you logged into iTunes and rated the show. It really helps. Thanks. What I love about you is that you wear your hat proudly, so to speak. I have another friend who's very, very successful internet marketer, and he does the same thing. Like, he just doesn't give a fuck. What people think about him. He's like, the way he is, that's the way he is in real life. That's the way he is in his marketing. That's the way he is pretty much everywhere. And he's unapologetic about it, and I really like it. Like you mentioned use the word vanilla. I think it perfectly describes the kind of people that we tend to meet on a daily basis, where they're just afraid to offend anyone. They're afraid to, rattle the cage, so to speak. They're sort of just want to be nice to everybody. I just hate that.
Well, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. And you are going to find out that you are going to be a magnet for a bunch of other vanilla wannabes. I want to just tweak your statement about me not giving a fuck. I actually do. And I want to meet good people, and like me and you, if I put on a pretense, if I tweak my English accent to be a little bit more like royalty, I'm presenting someone to you that's not me. Mm-hmm. And I give a fuck of your relationship with me, or the potential of it, to not start it off with a lie. Because I don't want to be having to continue an act. So I care about attracting people that I can care about, that I can relate to, that I can resonate with. How can you do that? By not being 100% transparent as to who you are. I don't want people to meet someone and then be hanging out with someone a month later and they're different.
Yeah, that would suck.
I hate it. How many times do you meet that? You meet someone and they kind of like put a persona on. You're at a business meeting and they're all kind of like, yes, well, yeah, here's my business card. Yeah. And then you meet them. And you find out that, they're having trouble with business, or, their mansion's actually like a little one-bedroom apartment down the street. Now, here's the daft thing. You may well have liked the person anyway, but now that you know that they've lied, and there's no one worse to lie to than yourself. They say you should never lie to your wife. I agree, but never lie to yourself.
My wife tends to know when I'm lying to myself before I do. I'm not sure how she does that.
Yeah, mine. I've been with her for 33 years, and it's great to have people in your camp that does that. But there was a couple of times in my earlier life that she did exactly that, and it actually came. I won't go into it too deep. There was a moment in my life, 7 years after being successful. I had a great business, like all entrepreneurs. We fuck it up. We find something that's working well, and we find a way to screw it up. I actually stopped riding motorcycles, started wearing suits, bought a Ferrari to try to be someone that you would respect more or want to do more business with. I was already doing well, turning up on a black T-shirt and on a bike, but I changed my looks and my style to be what I thought better for you or more acceptable. And I ended up getting the wrong kind of clients, not being able to communicate with any of them. And I was screwing up my business by trying to be someone who I was not.
Wow, that's a big lesson. That's
massive.
Yeah.
I actually have a picture in my garage because my office isn't finished yet, but in my old house, it was up on the wall, and it will be again, of me leaning against a Ferrari, my Ferrari. I say that now because a lot of people are taking pictures of cars that are not theirs. I was leaning against my car in a tailor-made suit in Monaco, and I have that up there because there's never been a picture taken of me that didn't include me in it as much as that. And I keep it up there as a warning not to sell out and be someone I'm not. So I actually give a fuck that you get to meet Steve Sims and not somebody else.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Now, the last thing I want to touch on is something you mentioned in, again, the last chapter where you give out the blue fishing blueprint, where you give a bullet point list of all the rules you live by. And the first rule on that list is throw out "it couldn't be me" mentality and ask why couldn't it be me? Now, do you mind sharing at what point in your life did you develop the audacity to ask this question?
Well, luckily I was an uneducated British biker. And this was very lucky for me because I didn't have the pretense or the fear built into me that, I would look at a Gucci wallet and I would go, well, it's a wallet. I'd look at a Rolex watch and I'd go, well, it's a watch. And I would literally say to people, because they'd come into the pub and they'd bought that new Rolex watch. And I'd say, well, how much is that? And they'd be like, you bear in mind you're in a pub back then. They'd be like, this is $2,500. And I'd be like, why is that worth $2,500? And the thing was, as an Irish lad, it wasn't sarcasm. It was literally, why is that worth $2,500? I want to know what makes that worth so much money. And there'd be some people that would say it as a detrimental, like, you're an idiot. Why is it worth that? But I wanted to know why it was. And a lot of people at that moment, let's be blunt, would buy the Rolex watch because they wanted to impress someone else. But then you would find that person and go, well, actually, the Rolex Submariner was actually built for da-da-da, and it's been around, and the intricacies of, and the movement is, and that would make it fascinating for me. When you know why it's worth it, and I was lucky enough to find some of those people. The mentality grew from that, and I noticed something that you can actually test today. If you ask someone, hey, if I gave you one wish and you could do anything you wanted to do, what would it be? And they will say something like, I don't know, sing on stage with Taylor Swift or have dinner with George Clooney. And then, without you spurring them on, they will spend the next 2 minutes telling you why that couldn't happen. So you say to someone, hey, what would you do if you could do anything? Oh, I'd like to have lunch with the Pope. But, I couldn't because, I don't have enough money, or I can't know any Rome, or I wouldn't know where to start, or, how do you possibly do that? Oh, the classic one, it's impossible. You see, people will tell you what they want and then spend the next 2 minutes with dedicated energy telling you why it can't happen, rather than spending that energy on asking themselves, why shouldn't it? And I found so many times, and can I tell you a quick story?
Absolutely.
Okay. I had a client that wanted to go, I'll make this one brief because you've probably heard it 1,000 times before. I had a client that wanted to go for an amazing restaurant in Florence. He left it to me to make that amazing restaurant happen. I closed down an entire museum, the Accademia, which houses Michelangelo's David, and I set up a table of 6 at the feet of David, and then halfway through dinner of these 6 people, I had Andrea Bocelli come in and serenade them at night. That's the kind of wild, wacky stuff I do, all right? Now let's get to the important part of that. It took a lot of credibility. It took a lot of people vouching for me. I'm a great believer that if I tell you I'm brilliant, it's marketing and promotion. If your best mate tells you I'm brilliant, it's gospel. So when I wanted things, I get people within that circle to make the connection and go, hey, this guy's real. Please help him out or listen to him. So I use and leverage relationships a lot. So here's the key to this story. I'm in the academia. It's about 9 o'clock at night, and we've got the table with all the candelabras and all the chefs getting everything ready and the lights and set up, and Andrea Bocelli's checking his vocals, his son's on the piano. This was an amazing picture. And I'm sat next to the curator and head of the Academia Museum. Now, I never ask a question that you can answer with a no, unless no is the answer I want. Okay? So I'm sat next to the guy. I knew there was resistance from him allowing this, this crazy-looking British guy that lives in Los Angeles. He referred to me as Mr. Hollywood a couple of times, so you could tell that I wasn't exactly being endeared to him. He saw me, I think, as a bit of a flashy fella. And he stood next to me, and we're looking at this. So now he couldn't do anything to upset the night. So I turned around to him and I said, "This must make you proud. It's a very beautiful evening, isn't it?" And he said, "It is, Steve. It is." I said, "Well, I've got to be honest. That table's looking beautiful." I said, have you ever done these before?" And he said, "A table of 6 at the feet of the most iconic statue in the world?" He said, "Never." Now, of course, I'm actually thinking, this is because of my connections. This is because I know how to get stuff done. I am the negotiator. Forbes called me the real-life Wizard of Oz. My ego was starting to rip out of my shirt, okay? So I said to the guy, so it's never been done before. He's like, "Nope." I said, "It's beautiful, though, isn't it?" He went, "Yep." I was leading him up the path to the final rub of my ego. So I dropped the bombshell that was going to finish me for the night. I went, why has this never happened before? Expecting him to go, "Because no one's as connected as you, Steve. No one's as good at negotiating as you, Steve." Do you know, he turned around to me and he went, "No one's ever asked." And in 1 second, everything dropped. And I suddenly realized that most people don't. Again, they will focus on telling you why it can't happen with so much energy and commitment, rather than using their energy and commitment to provide the one reason it should. And the reason is because you want it to.
Amazing. I mean, this is just huge. It just reminds you of how we tend to be like racehorses with blinders.
Yep.
And we just keep going forward and not deviate from what we think is either the right thing to do or what we're allowed to do by some authority, that's some invisible authority.
Yeah, brilliant visual. That's perfect. You made me sound, there you go, you made me sound smarter than I am.
Well, this is truly big because I only experience this in marketing. In my personal life, I haven't yet decided or made the commitment to experience this kind of breakthrough. But in my business, I've seen it over the years many, many times where I did play small. And the only difference between the big success and the small success is because I aim for the small success. In your book, you write about, aiming for the moon, so to speak, and landing on the stars, where you want to go for the really big goal. And even if you fail, you still failed to a point where miles ahead of where you started. And I think that's a brilliant attitude towards life in general.
Yeah, I remember working on the door, and it was a funny little thing. And again, you'll notice that everything I do is, whether it be big or small, it's the exact same. And I remember when I was working on the door, you would see people walk towards the front of the nightclub. There'd be a queue on the left, okay, a lineup on the left, and you were stood at the front. They would make a conscious, decision. Do they line up, or do they walk towards the doorman, slip them $50 and walk in? And they would be the ones that would self-select where they stood in life. And I found it really interesting. The guy that would turn up and was just nice guy with his girlfriend would walk up and go, evening, gentlemen. He said, I'd like to get a nice table, and just, $50 or even just politeness. Do you know, we didn't get as tipped as much as you think you do on the front door. But if someone came to you with that kind of politeness and that kind of, I deserve to be here, not arrogance, but that confidence, we'd be like, have a great night. We'd let them in. But then you get these other people walk up and they would just go and stand in the line. It's amazing how we self-select where we're going to play and where we're going to be. And you're completely right. I'm an East London bricklayer that now has the phone number to the Vatican. You guys don't have an excuse to play in that league, only that you've chosen not to.
This is incredible. Look, to wrap up the interview, I'd like to read a short list of some of the things you've done for your clients to inspire the list builders to dream bigger a little bit. Now, if you want to comment on any of these in any way, feel free. I'm just going to give like a quick read, okay? So let's start with this. So submarine trip to the Titanic, which was, really interesting. Be James Bond for the weekend, which was the actual thing you had. Or you arranged for someone to start in Monte Carlo, end up in Moscow, with Aston Martin, like, and a bunch of different things, which is kind of like, wow. Just for me, this is just wow. Hang out and jam with a celebrity, which is definitely something on my bucket list. Let's see what. Here's the one I really liked: play drums with Guns N' Roses drummer Matt Sorum, and play guitar with ZZ Top's Billy Gibbons, which is pretty cool. And there's one guy who's just an average entrepreneur type of person, like somebody who just runs a business, who you arranged to sing on stage with Journey 3 songs, I believe.
Yep, live on concert. He's the shortest-term lead singer of the rock band Journey now.
This is crazy. Now, here's some high adrenaline experiences, which, for me, like I'm more about cars, not planes, but you arranged for someone to fly an L-39 in an edge of space flight. And you had arranged for someone to swim with the sharks in South Africa, as well as train with the Navy SEALs. This is nuts. You got someone to drive a Formula One car, and actually I arranged something like that for my best friend this year, and he said it was like same as flying a jet fighter. Like he puked his guts out, and it was just really awesome. He said it was amazing. And this is one I didn't quite get. What is laser dogfight in L-39s over the Mojave?
Yeah, we only did that once, and recent security doesn't allow that. So when the military are actually doing exercises, they will take, you fight against different people. That's what the exercises are about. L-39s are highly maneuverable fighter jets. Laser dogfight means that they are trying to attack each other, and they are trying to laser lock so that it would say, right, I've locked on you, I could now shoot, you would be destroyed. So it's these fighter jets literally trying to get each other lined up to lock the lasers to define a kill.
Wow, nice. That's kind of like what they've done in Top Gun, I think.
It's exactly the same thing. Exactly the same. And you see it on movies where the controls will be able to determine that you just got locked. So it's that kind of experience. But they move at such speed at a 90-degree turns at what feels like 4,000 miles an hour. It's just ridiculous.
Nice. So here's some sporting experiences you've created. So this one I think I know who did it. I think Mike Dillard was the one to do it because he wrote about it in his newsletter. Watch Formula One in Monaco with royalty. He actually had photos of that. You've arranged private golf lessons with an iconic green jacket. Let's see here. I saw something about soccer. Watch a soccer game with the chairman of a British football team in his box club. This is amazing. I'm a huge United fan, so this is definitely something that just kind of gets me going. Just the list is just incredible, and this is again really just to inspire you guys to dream bigger than you think. Like you can always go way bigger than you think you can, or that you're allowed to. And I highly recommend to pick up a copy of Blue Fishing. Just go on Amazon, just type in Blue Fishing. You won't mix it. Like there's no 2 books with that title, that's for sure. And I also know, Steve, I also know that you have a mastermind now that you've just started, and this is for high-level entrepreneurs. And there's quite a few of those listening to our show. So why don't you share a little bit with us? What's that all about?
So we launched. It was launched through aggravation. I found a lot of masterminds, and I've got a lot of friends in this, so I'm not picking on them by any means, but each to their own. I found a lot of masterminds had a parade of people that would come along and they would speak and they would get off and everyone would clap, but there was no activation there. There was no actionable takeaways. You were motivated and you were clapping around like seals, but there was nothing that you could go home and actually do. or there were questions left. So I opened up a group called the Speakeasy Community. This is a monthly community, but we have about 3 to 4, or to be honest with you, as many events as I can throughout the year that is included in that, where I take intelligent people, captains of their game, to solve your problems. It's only a max of 40 people, and we have events and monthly Voxer calls, Skype calls, where we actually take where you are and get people involved to actually put you where you should be.
Do you give me permission to perhaps read out some of the members of your mastermind? Because as you know, part of joining mastermind is all about connections, and I would really love to read out some of the names.
Well, hopefully it's not all of them. One of the thing about the Speakeasy is it's like the Fight Club. The first rule of the Fight Club is you don't talk about the Fight Club. So the people, I will leave it to you to decide on that. But the level of people in this group are available to you. If you want to mention a few of them, then I give you permission to do that. But don't rattle off too big a list.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll mention 2. First one is Tim Larkin, and I think he's a self-defense author and teacher. Like, he's a really intense guy from what I've seen. And I haven't seen him joining many masterminds. So he's one. And the one that really caught my eye recently was Jim Quick, the speed learning educator, right?
Yeah, so we had we did a Speakeasy in New York. These are events. We did a Speakeasy in New York last, I think it was October, November, early November. Our next Speakeasy in Los Angeles on the 21st and 22nd of February. And what I did was I contacted all the attendees. And this is one of the key points. I'm not going to release it and go, hey, come to the Speakeasy because Gary Vee's going to be there. Nobody knows who's going to be there because I'm going to get the people there that you need. So at the New York Speakeasy, we contacted the people ahead of time and we said, look, what problems do you have that you want solved? There was a guy that wanted to, well, there was quite a few of them that wanted to release a book. There was someone there that said that they get so much work, they don't know how to automate things. They don't know how to get the priorities done. There was another person that was focusing on branding. And there was another group of people that said that they can't remember half of the stuff they're supposed to do. So I got in one of the top literary agents in America, the agent of J.J. Virgin, myself, Brendan Bouchard, to talk about how to write a book and how to get it out there. I had the head of videography and filming for Victoria's Secrets and Ralph Lauren and all the big commercials for cosmetics and perfume came in and talking about branding, and branding is making a story that others can resonate with. I had Ari Meisel come in to talk about automating your life, a close friend of mine. And then to be able to make sure you didn't forget stuff, I had the master of brain power, Jim Quick, come in and teach you how to do it. So it's not a case of that standing on stage, talking a good talk and then getting off as you clap. They're actually there workshopping it on how you can actually do it. We hot seat it. We find out what are the problems that need to be solved, and we get the people involved to actually solve them.
Yeah, I love hot seats, by the way. Hot seats are probably the best value for being in a mastermind. And I'm really, really sad that I couldn't attend. But as you know, I had the new baby on the way. But I'm definitely here.
Congratulations. Yeah, the next one's cool. And the beautiful thing about it is, and you can tell we can be honest here, it's in Hollywood. It's on the 21st and 22nd of February. But other than that, you don't know anything, do you?
That's right.
No, but that's the beauty about it. We end up with people coming along. But, think about that. You get the right kind of people that are willing to take a chance on themselves. And that's the attitude I want in the room.
Yeah, and with you, one would feel safer to take a chance because they know you have their best interest in mind. So far, that's how you showed up in my life for sure. Not to mention that, knowing how connected you are, you always go in there with the attitude of, oh my God, this is going to be something I'd never experienced before. And the other added benefit, of course, is, you're tied with Elton John and, you can always attend. I think this time, the attendees can attend like the Oscar parties or something like that.
We're doing a special, we like to work. One of the things that we like to do is that the Speakeasy educates and helps you grow. And then what I like to do at the end of it or during it is to put you in an environment or room that you never thought you would have been in. We're doing the speakeasy in LA that can conclude with you actually attending Sir Elton John's Oscar party with all the other celebrities. But then later on this year, you're going to be able to, and this is all included in your membership, you can actually go to, we're doing a Silicon Valley one, and we're going to be doing, again, growth and then getting into rooms and locations that you never would have been able to get into. And do you know the funny thing is, when you step into a lot of these rooms, you get that's how it's done. And you can take that away with you.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
You don't. And my job is to get you into an environment and a room and chatting on a friendly one-on-one basis with some of the smartest people in the world to help your growth.
Awesome. Well, first off, guys, once again, if you still haven't got the gist of it. So first off, go on Amazon, go type in amazon.com in your browser and search for Bluefishing, get the book, read the book. The second thing, if you're a high-level entrepreneur looking for the next level, looking for better connections, looking for better results, looking to basically work with Steve on a really intimate basis, then you want to Google Speakeasy. Okay, I think it's the one word, the Speakeasy.
You can actually find it on stevedsims.com. You can actually Join the Speakeasy on that easier.
All right, cool. So that's Steve D. Sims. I think it's double M.
No, it's one M.
One M?
One
okay,
M.
so
Yep.
stevedsims.com. You can go there and you can find the Speakeasy as well. That's actually how my relationship with Steve started as well. I got him on one call, and then I decided to join the Speakeasy. My wholehearted recommendation is to join for sure if you're looking to hit that next level. Steve, this was incredible. This was amazing. I think that's one of the best interviews I've had in 2018 for sure. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, and I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and educate the list builders.
I'm pleased to be here. Thanks, pal.
All right, so until next time we chat, have a good one. Thank you for tuning in to the List Building Lifestyle. Get access to previous episodes, the transcript of today's show, and exclusive content at our website at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. Also, don't forget to claim your free seat at the traffic workshop I'm conducting this week, where I'm showing how I built a list of 4,331,656 email subscribers without losing money, and how my clients are putting anywhere from 50 to 500 new leads per day on their list at a profit without any list building experience. Just go to igor.cx to claim your free seat now.